Greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you and learning with you. Our presentation today is entitled Mystical Statuary of the World 2, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa. Begin our work on this. We'll have a slide to inspire us for our meditation, and then we'll have the presentation proper. Now, on this topic of the human visage, or face, hand gestures and forms can be keys to draw forth and realize the presence of the divine within, the master within. We will focus on the Baroque sacred space and masterwork, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa, by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. This presentation originally had its genesis through past Grand Counselor Sir Faith Brown, when she was giving a presentation entitled The Psychic Heart, and she was wonderfully encouraging to me to present part of that presentation on this wonderful work of sculpture that bears on the topic of the heart and the psychic heart. Now, to prepare for our meditation, I want to share an image with you. You'll now be seeing a wondrous work. It's an allegorical engraving of the interior castle of Teresa Avila, based on her mature work, The Interior Castle. You'll see there's 7 levels within this tower, or there's 7 mansions or 7 chambers with associated biblical passages, and we see the mystic and student Teresa Avila beside the interior castle, which in a way is a model of the soul, a microcosm of the spiritual life. And as we rise and purify, we reach up towards the oneness with the divine, which is at the heart of mysticism. With this inspiring image in mind, and continuing on observations and insights from this renowned mystic Teresa of Avila, let us turn inward now, close our eyes, and prepare for meditation and for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order Amorc today. Thank you so much again for being with us. Now, with your eyes closed, and however you're situated, you may wish to be lying down or seated in a chair, or whatever is best for you for your meditation period. The main thing is to be able to breathe in an unencumbered way. Much of meditation has to do with the spiritualization and application of breath. Indeed, an important part of self-mastery is the same in living, the mastery of the breath. Breathing is a surprisingly simple act, but a very profound one with a lot to it. So with your eyes closed, comfortable if you're seated in a chair, recommend you have your hands in your laps, palms down, legs at a right angle, feet flat on the floor, the holy temple of the body connecting with the holy temple of the earth. Feet about 8 inches apart, spine upright. Just enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. You may wish to take a moment to check in with yourself. What are you feeling? How have things been going today? Maybe earlier in the day there was various challenges and we feel a little roughed up, and this is a time now to do meditation and soothe ourselves and have a mini retreat to be regenerated. Or maybe we've been having a very inspiring day, and this will continue to help amplify and continue it through the practice of meditation. Whatever is happening, just accept it. Return back to the gentle rhythm of the breath. No sweeping of anything under the carpet, so to speak. Meditation is a profound act of non-avoidance. Whatever is happening, just accept it and let go of it. And by letting go of it, we'll be all the more able to handle it and resolve it as needed. Because through meditation, we come into the full integration of our faculties, through the mind and the body. We can be more fully ourselves. Our imagination's all the more activated. Our various capacities of mind with the reasoning, intuition are all activated, working as a unity. And what may have been challenging before becomes surmountable or understandable and transformed. So with these thoughts in mind, just give yourself permission to have this mini retreat right now. Just enjoy the deep stillness within yourself. So breathe in, feel the increasing presence of the Master within, the divine within, our true guide in life. The culmination of those 7 phases or 7 chambers that mystic Teresa of Avila talked about in her classic, The Interior Castle. Rising up in the image that I showed you towards the oneness with the divine. Each breath, feel that increasing presence of the divine within. The passage through the 7 chambers. With each exhalation, extend it so you feel the relaxation response because the vagus nerve is being stimulated. And that relaxation allows us to concentrate, increases our capacity to heal and be whole. All these things and more are wondrously going on in the simple act. Concentration of our breath and meditation. Now we'll continue our meditation by applying the instructions of the booklet Liber 777, which will give you as a resource a link to it towards the end of the presentation. And we'll follow its instructions in a little simpler format than we've done in some previous teleconferences. But this time, I invite you to engage with me in a prayer and invocation. You may wish to repeat after me. So we breathe in. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum in attune, in pureness, and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now let us use our imagination and all our psychic faculties to rise up from the room where we're situated and right up out from the dwelling or building where we are and up over our neighborhood in the city or geographic area. And let us enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent. Keep rising up over the province or state where you dwell and see down below the various landforms, weather systems, the beauty and harmony of it all. And then rise up even higher over the great nation or country where you dwell. And keep rising up higher again and see the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, the late spheroid, and see it spinning around its axis. See the great waters of the oceans, the great landforms and the browns, wondrous beauty. And keep rising up further and further into the cosmos, increasing this presence within you and around you of the cosmic. The Rosicrucians use the term cosmic to mean universal intelligence back of the cosmos and all natural and spiritual laws that we learn in our weekly lessons in our Rosicrucian studies. And keep rising up into the universe and the cosmos. Enjoy the beauty of it all, the great harmony of the spheres that the ancient mystics have spoken of. Use all your inner spiritual strength to rise up faster and faster into the cosmos. See in the distance your personal celestial sanctum. When you come to it, slow up and look around you and enjoy the beauty of the stars and the nebulae and the galaxies. The great revolving of the cosmos about you. Its central axis of the cosmos. mirroring, aligned with your spine as an axis in the microcosm that is the holy temple. When you've reached that point, the celestial sanctum, picture there some sacred space special to you. It may be a church or a basilica or a prayer hall or a synagogue or a mandir or a mosque or a Rosicrucian temple such as the Grand Temple, Rosicrucian Order Amorc at Rosicrucian Park. Fill in the sights and sounds and make it real and vital. Or if you prefer, take some sacred natural place like a sacred grove or high hill or mountain with its inspiring vista, or sensing the vibrations of waves coming in by a lakeshore or seashore. Fill in your personal celestial sanctum. And picture there are others that are on this conference call with us, and other seekers and visible and invisible masters and officers of the Rosicrucian Order Amorc, the Grand Masters and the Imperator. You wish to visualize incense rising up, suggesting a great raising of consciousness. Maybe stained glass windows depicting Rosicrucian laws and principles and mystical lessons. Fill in the sights and sounds and other experiences of the senses and make it real and vital. Enjoy the exhilaration of being in your personal celestial sanctum, your sacred space. And when you're ready, release this visualization and dwell in the deep stillness, suggestive of what Rosicrucians call the most profound peace, peace profound. And we'll have some time in silence together by applying the law of silence, feeling the increasing presence of the Master within with each breath in. Find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the gentle rhythm of your breath, the deep stillness, the heights of the celestial sanctum. Just continue to let go, surrender to the divine within, our true nature, our true guide in life. Now let us follow the instruction of past Imperator, Brother Christian Bernard, to use the opportunities when we ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum to send metaphysical aid to all those in need, following the law of service. While we're applying the law of cosmic attunement, let us radiate the healing forces, nature, through us, the divine within, to all those who've petitioned the Grand Lodge for order, be healing and guidance. And all those that you know through your affiliate bodies who have petitioned your metaphysical aid list for healing and guidance. And all those you know who are in need of healing and guidance this time. And all those sentient beings throughout the cosmos that are in need of healing and guidance this time. That the healing forces of nature, the love and well-being radiate out through you to them. Let your outer nature be a channel to the divine within in this act of service. Feel that healing and love and well-being flow out from you like a divine light, like an inner sun or a great floodlight moving out from you to all those who have petitioned and all those in need. The need is great for healing, but the resources through the divine within are infinite. Just continue to let the metaphysical aid flow. Enlivening the healing process in the recipients. Now we'll soon formally conclude this period of metaphysical aid, but we'll continue our meditation a while longer. To conclude this period of metaphysical aid with the assurance that it'll continue within us as a way of life and as part of our mission, we'll say together, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. Now let us, brothers and sorors and participants, continue a while longer to dwell at the heights of the celestial sanctum, the center of the cosmos, the center of our being. For by the law of correspondence, as we rose up into the cosmos, we went deep within ourselves to the matching of microcosm and macrocosm. Continue to enjoy the peace profound and deep stillness that is our birthright. In the presence of the divine within, always ready to help us, guide us, and heal us. Make us whole. And be one with the one. Now, brothers and sorors and participants, we'll gradually conclude this period of the cosmic attunement through the celestial sanctum. Let's evoke the law of gratitude for this opportunity to be of service and fulfill our birthright through the law of cosmic attunement. Let us descend now from the heights of the celestial sanctum, going fast through space, way beyond the speed of light, past the myriad stars and galaxies, and comets and asteroids and planets, great webs connecting the galaxies. And see in the distance the Milky Way galaxy, and as we come within it, the myriad stars and phenomena, in the distance the solar system, the fiery sun, and our home, the temple of the earth, As we approach the earth, we come back to the hemisphere where we left off, the continent, the country or nation, province or state, a city or geographic area. To conclude, let us do the following prayer and invocation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum, so mote it be. And let us continue to ascend into our neighborhood, our home or building, the room where we left off. And when we're ready, you may wish to open your eyes, stretch, feeling remade, rebuilt, rejuvenated, all the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order this day and fulfilling our mission in life. Thank you. Now, in our presentation entitled Mystical Statuary of the World 2, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa, we're going to travel to a church that was built during what's referred to as the Baroque period of great flamboyancy in architecture. The term Baroque derives from the wondrous shape of a pearl that's more flamboyantly shaped rather than a perfect sphere. And we'll consider the work by a renowned sculptor named Gian Lorenzo Bernini. He was also a wonderful worker in architecture. He's known for the great architectural arms of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, the helical columns of the baldacchino of St. Peter's Shrine within St. Peter's Basilica, Rome. And the sculpture we're focusing on in this presentation, which I'll show you more about shortly. We see here the church in which the sculpture of interest to us is situated. This is the church of Santa Maria della Vittoria in Rome. In English, you could say St. Mary of Victory Church. It's a Catholic titulary church and basilica dedicated to the Virgin Mary in Rome, Italy. You notice in the drawing here, it's situated by its piazza and surrounding beauty of Rome. Rome was known as the Theatrum Mundi, or the theater of the world. And that concept will be very important to us as we begin to look at this sculpture. Here we see the symbolic or liturgical west facade of the Church of Santa Maria della Vittoria. You notice various elaborate carvings in the work, various symbolism of the portal and its entry. And here we see face-on view of the work, its wonderful harmonies, proportions, suggestive of the harmony and number back of the cosmos, which the temple is a microcosm. It's very important to be observant, and the Rosicrucians teach us a lot in our lessons done weekly about law of concentration and how to observe. Because here, if we come over on the liturgical and symbolic north side, we'll notice that the church is actually in a cruciform form. You'll notice here a transept coming out. But quite remarkably in our observation, there's another work jutting out from here and two windows. What is going on here? This is unusual. This is a telltale sign that something's very significant going on, because often you can read a temple's interior from its exterior. So let's bear this in mind as we continue our journey in visiting this wonderful church of Rome from the Baroque period. Here we come inside and we see wondrous flamboyant use of art and architecture. The Baroque period, in a way, spared little in the way of expense to lavish the house of the divine in God's house. If you're used to much more simpler architecture like a Quaker meeting house or worship, this can be quite a surprise. But outer nature may have particular predilections for a particular style of architecture and the amount of decoration it's shown. But I assure you, just like the apparent elegance and austerity of a Quaker meeting house, which has deep mystical roots, so does Baroque architecture and its flamboyance and lavishness have deep mystical roots. We'll need to allow the master within to see the work and appreciate it. Now, this church was built during 1608 to 1620. And you'll notice as we move down the central vessel, the nave. So the nave is like from the Latin for the ship taking us to heaven. That over here on the side here, you'll see something very intriguing that was in that transept referred to earlier. As we move up closer and see higher up the angelic fingers in the ceilings, we see something intriguing, a figure sculpted in the side that appear like they're in a theater box. Let's go further again and see what we come to when we look straight on that transept. This is actually a painting. I wanted to show you the transept first in that way. It's good because it shows in a way a good view of the upper, mid-level, and lower levels. And we'll see the work of sculpture that we're going to look at, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa here. But we also see that there's theater pews here in stone sculpted there. Because Bernini is not only a master of architecture and in sculpture, but also in painting, and he was a dramatist. He wrote dramas. He designed sets for dramas and also theatrical equipment. He's pulling out all the stops to do this in this one dramatic work of what's called the Coronero Chapel within the church. Now as we come in closer, you'll find certain other things revealed. You notice here now, we see a picture of the work, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa. There's very lavish and a lot to take in, but of course our eyes goes to the centerpiece. It shows a mystical experience of St. Teresa, which I'll describe shortly. You'll see the great rays of light coming down from above. You see the figures of the Coronero family that are on the left and right sides. They're part of the wealthy patronage that supported the funds for this work, the 12,000 scudi in the monetary terms, the Baroque period. You notice elaborate marble columns, the beautiful white marble of the sculpture, the elaborate capitals and all the entablature. And it seems like light is streaming down with these golden rays in the center, which I want to talk to you about as well. But let's get a little more introduced to Bernini right now. You'll see here a self-portrait of Bernini. You can see he was a very strong painter as well as sculptor and architect. He lived from 1598 to 1680, and this poor self-portrait was executed in around 1623. Now, Bernini, this is a picture of course, when he was a young man. And it was soon recognized when he was even a child that he had extraordinary abilities. And he was soon attracted a lot of interest in people securing his work. And he soon became able to, through his studies and teaching in art, to become a master of a studio, where he had apprentices and assistants working with him as the artistic master, similar to how Leonardo da Vinci and others worked during the early Renaissance period. Now, he would be always closely overseeing all the work and was known for his highly organized nature and fulfilling commissions. which led to him receiving this commission for the coronary chapel. Now, Bernini's skill, knowledge, and creativity attracted the patronage from popes, leaders of the Roman Catholic Church, royalty, and aristocrats. He used all his artistic skills in the various arts and mediums to give renowned unified expressions, which was one of his hallmarks. Now, Bernini lived most of his life in Rome. Now let us continue and take in a little more of the mystery associated with the light in the Coronaro Chapel. You remember when we were looking at the exterior of the building and we took particular note of that unusual protrusion with windows and a window above it? Well, that window above here is actually this window here, which allows more natural light to come into the Coronaro Chapel. Because light is very important to this sculpture because it's suggestive of divine light. But also very intriguingly, we saw these golden rays of light. They're done to these gold-colored metal beams coming down. That is lit by this extra light that's below the main upper light. There's this mid-level windows here. And if you get underneath the sculpture, you can actually see up to the opening, allowing that light from the exterior here to come in and illuminated the mystical depiction that is described to Teresa of Avila, the mystic. So you see how the theater work of Bernini is and being exacted in this chapel. Well, notice over on the right-hand side as we looked in, there are some of the patrons. You'll see them sculpted in here in marble and other precious stones around them. Here we have Federico Coronaro. He is actually the wealthy patron of this work. The family is from Venice, but they had active ties in Rome, and he wished to be buried in this particular chapel, and it became particularly renowned, the church as a whole, with this work by the master Bernini here. You notice the figures are discussing the work as if they were at a drama. In a way they are. They're experiencing awe and excitement. Now let's continue in our exploration of this wondrous work of art and indeed architecture. The sculpture work is in marble. Here we have some work that's done what appears to be limestone, but there's similar principles. I wanted to show you the type of skill and tools that Bernini would have been learning and that he would be guiding with his apprentices and assistants. We see in the upper left a chisel and hammer. Now this is from the modern period, but this is essentially, we know what they'd be using the Baroque period and the Renaissance period, medieval period and earlier from records that we have and depictions that we have. Over on the right, you can see the sculptor working with a flat chisel and the particular shapes that it makes. And then in the lower left, we see the claw chisel because it has like teeth or claws on it to form other works of a different type, depending on what one wanted to do and get effect. And in the lower right, there's what's called a rasp. It helps with some of the smoothing out. This is what would have been done for the Ecstasy of St. Teresa. It'd be highly skilled years of practice and training to do this. And he would work with a master on projects to try to work to the master's skill or even surpass, as Bernini did. Bernini also grew up in an artistic family. For example, his father was a sculptor as well. So now here we see centered before us this wondrous work of the Ecstasy of St. Teresa. Befittingly, before this installation was in place, there was another work of art here instead, but also on the theme of ecstasy. It's titled The Ecstasy of St. Paul. So we see that deep mystical experience of ecstasy that I'll speak more about continue to be represented at this special place of the Cornaro Chapel. This church was a Carmelite chapel, and St. Teresa of Avila was a Carmelite. It was a particular very mystically orientated religious order within the Roman Catholic Church. The Rosicrucian order, AMORC, is not a religion, but through its wide-ranging studies and knowledge of laws and spiritual principles, we gain to understand and see spirituality and deeper understanding of all things through religious expressions and non-religious expressions. For me, in a way, it's thrilling to see this work because I remember seeing it on a trip to Rome. I was traveling with my brother. We were going through Britain and Europe, and we were in our 20s. I still have my travel diary from that time describing the experience of seeing this work. It was truly unforgettable for the rest of my life. I'd written to the Rosicrucian research librarian at Rosicrucian Park for suggestions of special things and places to experience in some of the large cities, including Rome. She had kindly written back with some great ideas. Now, if someone has had a mystical experience or is intensely seeking the union with the divine, that is mysticism, this sculpture can have a greatly ennobling and propelling effect. We see in this sculpture and what's around it that it is the centerpiece of a chapel, and services and rituals were done here. You see before us here a cross and candles that are part of the altar. This would be part of the liturgical and religious use of this sculpture. In a way, it's wonderful that we're getting to see this work in its original environment. Sometimes we see sacred works of art in museums, and we have to use our imagination and knowledge to picture it back where it originally was and how it functioned in a temple or similar. And then we get a fuller, more contextual image and understanding. For as the Rosicrucians emphasize, something can only be understood except in relationship to the whole, which is the heart of mysticism. We need to keep that in mind, how the whole is at work here. Now, Teresa of Avila, who lived from 1515 to the year 1582 in her incarnation on earth, wrote extensively about spirituality and the mystical life. As I mentioned earlier, she was a Carmelite nun, a religious reformer, a leader in that reform and the various nunneries that she helped found. She was also a great spiritual teacher, well known in history as a renowned Spanish mystic. Her beloved work of guidance for her students and ultimately for us all are The Way of Perfection, The Life of St. Teresa of Jesus, and The Interior Castle, which I spoke of earlier. In her writings, she is wonderfully and very frank, humble, lofty, and wise, all good signs of a mystic and self-mastery. Now, she was canonized as a saint by Pope Gregory XV in 1622, and she was designated as a doctor of the church by Pope Paul VI, relatively recent years, 1970. Now, the sculpture that we're seeing before us is based on mystical experiences described by Teresa of Avila. So we come in to the work, we see even more closely the dramatic action that is going on. And let me read you a passage from Teresa's autobiography, The Life of St. Teresa of Jesus. They're translated from the Spanish. I saw in his hand a long spear of gold, and at the iron's point, there seemed to be a little fire. He appeared to me to be thrusting it at times into my heart and to pierce my very entrails. When he drew it out, he seemed to draw them out also, and to leave me all on fire with the great love of God. The pain was so great that it made me moan. And yet so surpassing was the sweetness of this excessive pain that I could not wish to be rid of it. The soul is satisfied now with nothing less than God. The pain is not bodily, but spiritual, though the body has its share in it, even a large one. It is a caressing of love, so sweet, which now takes place between the soul and God, that I pray God of his goodness to make him experience it who may think that I am lying. So we see in this experience that of the psychic heart, one of the major psychic centers of the body. Now, the psychic centers parallel the physical senses and can realize a wide range of octaves on the cosmic keyboard. We'll see the heavenly figure here that's suggested by higher rates of the cosmic keyboard by the angelic figure, some describe as the cherubim, which I'll give a close-up momentarily. The spirituality is suggested by the deep knowingness and love in his face, the wings and loftiness here, the drapery on him very thin and suggesting the infinite plane. And here Teresa more on the finite plane with the heavier garments. What a great motion and movement, the Baroque period suggesting the great inner reverberations that are going on emotionally and spiritually, particularly within Teresa. You know, she's floating on a cloud, raised up. She was known for her levitation and rising up, but she's feeling this in an interior way. She is surrendered, allow the experience to occur just like we surrendered in our meditation period. We see here closer up now a depiction of the angel and St. Teresa. She's feeling the deep love of God. It's symbolically, she's seen clothed through the experience of the angelic figure. Now, it's important to keep in mind when we have experiences of these wide range of octaves of the cosmic keyboard, everything's vibrational, both within the cosmos and beyond. These impressions can be clothed in a way that they can be realized in our subjective mind. Such psychic experiences can sometimes be the prelude to mystical experiences, like the one before us. But unlike psychic experiences, mystical experiences convey even greater depth. They convey an expansiveness of awareness, a deep sense of unity, a sense of eternity, all-encompassing love and more that goes beyond the psychic experience. Now, it's good to remain receptive when we start to feel the onset of a psychic experience. And be patient, because often they lead immediately to a mystical experience, which St. Teresa is about to experience, rather than immediately analyzing the psychic experience in the subjective mind and not realizing the full experience or cutting it short. All the analysis we want to do can be done after the entire experience. Pastor Imperator Ralph M. Lewis has a helpful discussion of the nature of the psychic and the mystical experiences in his book, The Sanctuary of Self, and I'll give you a reference to that afterwards. Here we have a close-up on the cherubim or the angelic figure. Now, if Teresa had been raised under very different conditions, For example, say she was an indigenous person of the Anishinaabe on Turtle Island in North America, or if she was a Buddhist, her expressions would have been clothed in a different way. And I'll give you a reference on that if you're interested in exploring it for the RCY instructor, Erwin Wattemeyer, wrote a wonderful article for the Rosicrucian Digest, and there's a podcast entitled 2 Practical Principles. It's very helpful in understanding the nature of our psychic and mystical experiences. One that's been very important to me, and I know an important one to our Grand Master in clarifying understanding of these matters. And in this type of experience, someone of a different cultural background would have thought differently. They may have seen it as a spirit guide or a bodhisattva and so forth. These are experiences that are all beautiful and important to us. You know, as we go up even further, the wondrous ability of mastery of stone, suggestive of the mastery of life itself. The angelic figure here can be interpreted in a variety of ways. The central part of it, though, is the direct experience of the divine within that Teresa is experiencing, as well as the celestial beings and ascended and invisible masters that assist us in our work. The greatest master, of course, mysticism in the Rosicrucian order, is the divine within, the master within, that all others are all forms of mastership are in harmony with. Let us look at the work overall again. And, you know, in the Rosicrucian order, we have a very balanced way of development. You know, sensing physically, psychically, and mystically, they're all important and need to be developed in a balanced way for self-mastery, the law of balance. And not only for self-mastery, but for the deepest spirituality, which is exactly the purpose of our weekly monographs and exercises. Occasionally, it can be helpful if we share our mystical experiences, such as Teresa had done in her autobiography that she'd been greatly urged to write by her spiritual advisor for the benefit of us all. And we on occasion share those mystical experiences. We sense that it would be helpful for our listeners and ourselves. What is most important, though, is that we share in some form what we have learned and give back in service what the experience has guided and lifted us to do. Just as Bernini's mystical experiences and intimations thereof helped him emulate the cosmic by doing this wonderful work for us to help attune us with the cosmic. Now, some persons may not be able to comprehend the way that we have had a mystical experience, but they can feel the strong love, kindness, respect, clarity of thinking, a mature example, and when appropriate, the guidance that comes from our having had such experiences. We see here that Teresa of Avila, in her writing, and Bernini in his sculpture, apply metaphor and allegory, just like we do in our ritual dramas and initiations and convocations in the Rosicrucian order, in a deeper way in all our life. We see in this sculpture various forms of expression of love, from physical, psychological, and psychic. In other words, Bernini was familiar with those different expressions, and those expressions help the outer self in our own life and our mystical experience too, to comprehend the experience of divine love, as was centrally being placed and shown to us here. Its resemblance to physical, psychological, and the psychic forms of love is more as an allegory to help us attune with the cosmic and go to the divine within, the master within. We see this matter, for example, in the biblical Song of Solomon that Teresa would have been very familiar with. Also in the mystical poetry of John of the Cross, a younger contemporary and close friend of Teresa of Avila. Teresa of Avila wrote extensively on spiritual and mystical development for the instruction of her student of others, as I referred to earlier. I mentioned her culminating work, The Interior Castle, that describes her experiences, insights, and the stages of mystical development through the 7 chambers, an interior castle of the soul. In a way, we have a wonderful, privileged view through the master artist Bernini and the master mystic Teresa of Avila before us. In a way, they combine their efforts to give us something wondrous, to give a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in our life, and to re-enliven and rekindle our own mystical experiences. We see here a depiction of some of the near the upper mansions or chambers of the 7 of the interior castle that Teresa speaks of, and movement towards that union at the very height of the tower of those 7 chambers that we saw at the beginning of our meditation. We see also too, in a way, in flat and stone or in an environmental express form, the depiction of the interior castle of our soul. The Rosicrucians have the term harmonium, and it's well exemplified in this sculpture. The harmonious environment of the chapel, the harmony with the divine, which gives rise to ecstasy. Now, we see too the depiction of various harmonious arrangements, the law of harmony. We see so much suggested to us through the law of suggestion, from the theatrical positioning of the coronary family, depicting it just as we are, to the suggestion of the golden rays and the lightness of the angel, even though it's in dense marble, it's been sculpted. We see the law of duality, the lightness and the darkness, the ray, the shadow effects, leading also to experience of unity and the law of unity, and ultimately the law of cosmic attunement that it helps draw us into, and which this is an expression of the law experience of cosmic attunement of Teresa, and to a degree of Bernini to be able to express this with his assistance, and ultimately the law of love, and Teresa's intense experience of love as all-encompassing force in the universe, and what we're guided to as students of mysticism to experience in our own right. In a way, we are quite remarkably seeing a mystical experience being enshrined in the Coronero Chapel. The work can inspire us in reliving or moving towards our own mystical experiences, those touch-tone experiences in our lives that transform us, give us our deepest sense of meaning and purpose. They're conveyances that we emulate in our work and contact with others, and charge us in the spirit of service and give us major direction in our lives. While the work shows Teresa of Avila and an angel, what the work is most fundamentally about is the love of God and the realization of our union with God, or the divine, through the Christ principle, that is, through Christ consciousness or cosmic consciousness. And before we conclude, I'll ask at this time for Karen to post resources for the presentation in the chat. So by way of conclusion, what I will say is that Bernini, in his later years, would come and sit in the Coronero Chapel to view the work and to pray and meditate. And he was thereby restored and rejuvenated from all his challenges in his life. And he felt a deep sense of rightness in his work. Just as we've had an opportunity to experience the same through this inspired work of art that emulates and expresses the consciousness of the cosmic. We have seen how the urge for illumination has expressed itself through sculpture, the great enrichment of us all and a remembrance of our true nature. We have experienced how the Rosicrucian laws and principles can make a great difference in fully appreciating what lies before us and within us. Thank you.